Hello. Did I turn this up on the side? I think I did. I don't know if that's turned up. I just messed up the light now. Hi, y'all. Hi, y'all. That's really good English. Where's my mouse? Okay. I'm ready when y'all are.
Well, okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's not loud enough. It's not quite loud enough for the kids to hear. There we go. We're ready now.
Hey, boss, how are you?
I am flawless. How are you?
I am excellent as always.
Thank you for that TikTok about us not being wamboozled into paying $4,622 million for copies. Do you want to tell the kids what that number is again and what happened to you and your client? I can only think of what criminal ISD it would have been, but tell us what happened.
Yes, so that is what you're looking for is 300.617.
300.617 in the federal code.
Mm-hmm. And that tells us what they can charge, and it's really limited. So this district, after not serving this sweet boy for years, I just started working with them, and there's no data in the progress notes. So we asked for, the good records review and FERPA documents that you had given me years back. So
Yeah.
we asked for all of the good stuff.
Yeah.
And they immediately turned around and said, "We want $1,500."
$1,500. Wow. Is that like they're going on a golfing tournament, or was that what that was for? Pickleball. Probably pickleball.
Pickleball.
Yeah.
It was pickleball. It was pickleball. So, but again, so 300,617, they were charging. So apparently, there's a district secretary out there that earns $70 an hour.
Oh my gosh, can we put that application up on the screen?
Seriously.
That's good living. I can photocopy for that.
I would too. So magically, we delivered our feedback to the superintendent and to the SPED director, and a few minutes later, we're getting your copies.
We're getting your copies. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the deal. I've noticed, and thank you for that, 300.617. So, I've had districts, I think that we did this in our training, Christina, that we're going to charge a client for her daughter's 504 records, which of course you know that your Chick-fil-A order takes up more paperwork than a 504. They were going to charge her $5,000 and something dollars. And I just emailed back and I said, that's ridiculous. We're not paying for copies. And she said, okay, just pick them up Thursday. Like, what? Like, is that going to the football fund? I don't think so. We're not allowed to do anything as a school district to impede the parents' ability to meaningfully participate. So thank you so much for that, Christina, and I'll be duetting it. You guys need to save that in case that shenanigan happens to you guys.
Absolutely. All right. You ready for some good questions besides what is the amazing color of lipstick you're wearing tonight?
So it is Snob by MAC. I hate that's the name. And then this is called Sour Sugar on top of it. It's a combo pack, all right? The Snob is too matte, but I do love a shimmer because, when you're 58 3/4, you need shimmer.
Excellent. All right. So I always find the teacher questions and like to grab those first. So district moved my pre-K with autism spectrum disorder and speech language delays to a new school because, quote, we only have 10 slots this year.
Oh, were they going to Vegas? Because I think that's where you have slots. I didn't know, like, are those like just like little pins in a barn? We just put them in a slot? Ugh.
Yes, here, you go there.
Yeah. No, that's not how we do it. We provide special education and related services. It's one of the 4 components of FAPE that we provided at elementary schools, secondary schools, high schools, and vocational. So we have openings for all children in America that are in need of special education and related services.
Okay, and then this mama is asking, I can't get my daughter's special education teacher to test her for dyscalculia. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, so just skip that. So the dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyslexia. All of those things are definitely educational impact, but they are lower level to higher specific learning disabilities. Of course, there's 9 of those that include dyslexia, basic reading, reading fluency, reading comprehension, written expression, math calculations, math computations, oral expression, listening comprehension. So you want to make sure that you ask for a formal cognitive evaluation to be tested in all 7 Gs. You're also going to ask for a formal testing and achievement with the standard reading, writing, and math, but additionally ask for OE and LC, oral expression and listening comprehension, and that will tease all of those in and all of those out.
Absolutely. Okay, how do I choose between schools? The county is paying for private placement for my son.
I mean, if you have a choice, it's your choice as a family. This is what we say as, myself as an advocate and all of our partners. At the end of the day, no matter how vested we are in our kiddos that we serve for 5, 6, 7, 12, 15 years, it's not our child. You are the expert, and you have to make the decision that's best for your child. Knowing that, it's always our next best guess, right? And that staff move and people move. But if you have an amazing program with staff that really have a love for kids with differences and are doing their best to implement it, then I would stay wherever that is.
Woo! Okay, so Jay Kidding, which I love that username.
Yes.
Said that they were asked for $2,000 for 6,000 emails that the district had amassed about them.
I'm sure that was good reading. Yes, Christine and I have been. We have upset many people in the Great Texas area simply asking for her own child's records. Like, how dare you do that? Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to share with the folks what you do if you can't get your FERPA records? What would be the next step?
What would be the next step if you can't do them? I mean, you have to file a state complaint. I mean, those are your records. They're actually not the schools. It's so funny when we sit in meetings, my partners sit in meetings, and people say, those are my records. The SLP says those are my records, or the general ed teacher said those are my records. They're actually the students' records. So you want to make sure that when you ask for them, you ask for them formally. You want to make sure that when you fill out that FERPA request that you go in person. We recommend that you have 2 hard copies and that you do a wet signature on both copies. Try to get the clerk or whoever's at the front to sign them. If not, take a picture of yourself there holding them. That starts a 45-day timeline. But certainly file a state complaint. You can certainly file a FERPA complaint. I think you'd probably get more movement if you filed a complaint with the state. But I certainly would give the superintendent an opportunity to rectify it before you file with the state. And maybe that would happen and maybe it wouldn't. It depends on what district that you're in. But it's amazing how far districts will go to stop us from having records. I don't know how many times that myself or my partners that a school district attorney has reached out to the attorney generals of the state to stop us from getting records for kids. It's amazing. If we spent all of that time that we spent on attorneys telling parents no, we could probably teach kids to read, write, do math, regulate, stuff like that.
The things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any favorite apps for math or writing practice?
I don't have any favorite apps that I can think off the top of my head. I like ED Helper. Of course, I can't think of any now that you've asked me. There is an app called My Name that is for kiddos that are literally learning to write, and it's when they use their finger to write their name or initial. If they do it in the right order, it gives them a payoff. And a lot of kids that have pre-writing strokes use that. But I don't know. You could probably just Google it. I'm sure there's a gazillion apps. I really want to caution people from too much time on screens because it does. It sometimes becomes a little bit tiring for kiddos looking at a screen. But certainly, if that's something you can supplement with, I would do that.
Okay, SPED teacher here. What is the best path to becoming an advocate?
So you would take our amazing 2-day training, which you can get right this second. Of course, not right this second because you have to leave this live. But you could go online to Special Education Academy. We have it on demand. It's a 2-day training. It's very robust. You have to keep the recording. And then if you want more in-depth training after that, we have a Mastermind, which readies you for literally the phrases and the nuances and the applications and the strategies and the adjustments that we make in IEP meetings. While it's amazing to learn about the law and the application and the spirit of the law, you really have to learn how to fully be prepared for these meetings, expecting complete consensus, but then also being prepared for if you have to file.
Can a person who has passed their state certification test in special education but not graduate until December teach? And let's say, August when we start back to school.
So if I log on to Mississippi and it says Christina Smith is a special educator in Mississippi, then you're a special educator. If I log on to Mississippi and I look up Christina Smith and you're not a special educator, you're not a special educator. It's black and white. There's no gray in special education. You are either certified in that state to provide special education for students with disabilities, or you are not.
You're either in the pool or out of the pool.
Yeah. We like to stay out of the pool, but Christina likes to be in the pool.
I do. I enjoy it there. Just kind of lounge in there.
It messes up my hairdo. I can't do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I had an initial IEP meeting. I'm still not happy. I'm in Missouri. It's very annoying. Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri. We love you, the show me state. So if you're not happy, I can't think of a better investment than a good advocate. Obviously, we have a team of advocates. There are advocates in other places. It is a legal process that you're walking through for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 years. To not have representation, you're just going to miss things. And it's, there's nothing worse than when Christina or myself or one of our partners gets a client and they beat themselves up because they missed it. And a lot of our clients are teachers. A lot of our clients are past educators. It doesn't matter. When it's your child, you need another set of eyes to either help you prep for those meetings. We do records reviews, which is really helpful. And we would say, if we were in the meeting, we would ask for this adjustment in the present levels. We would ask for a second behavioral goal based on this need. We would ask for more time of targeted reading based on these numbers and his present levels. And sometimes that's enough information to give you to go in there. There is, parents are in trauma. It's traumatic to listen for years about your child's deficits. And just like if you went to a doctor and you were having a serious protocol, you'd probably have somebody go with you, not because you don't have the ability to hear, but that's ability to listen and make decisions and have somebody else's opinion. Don't go alone.
Is it enough to use the Wyatt to rule out an SLD if it doesn't cover all the achievement areas?
Well, it doesn't cover all the cognitive areas, right? So when you ask for all 7 Gs, the only cognitive test that I know of that does all 7 intact is going to be the WJ4, the Woodcock-Johnson 4. Any of the other tests, the Wyatt, the Westler, the Kaufman, the Hawaii test, the Tony, the IPSI, the WIPSI, we can always supplement them with other subtests to get those 7 cognitive, those 7 brain skills. We need those, right? And then based upon that, we want to do the 5 areas of achievement: math, reading, writing, oral expression, and listening comprehension. And then that way we can look for if there's an outlier or there's a discrepancy we need to address with specially designed instruction.
All right, our district uses a 21-point discrepancy scale.
I'm sorry.
Are they allowed to just use this and not collect data?
So almost every state has great specificity around looking at a specific learning disability. And while some states, Indiana, Virginia, Missouri, actually have a measurement, which seems sort of odd to me since our kids aren't measurements, it's not in isolation. There's usually other parameters, but at the end of the day, the federal law trumps state law. And in 300.111D, it says that we don't even have to list a child by a disability as long as we agree that this child is in need of special education and related services, and we provide that. So I think that, sometimes we get so stuck on he doesn't have a math disability because he's 1 point off. but he's drowning in math. So, our job is to decide if a student needs special education and related services and provide that.
Does an IEP change when you move from elementary school to middle school?
No, I mean, the IEP addresses the student's circumstances. The minutes might be different because in middle school we have 7 classes where we didn't have in elementary school. In elementary school you have 2 main teachers, right? 2 switch teachers. So those minutes might be different, whereas, in elementary school you might have 2.5 hours for English and language arts together, whereas they might be 45-minute classes in junior high. But you want to make sure that you've, again, gone by each content area when you're programming for that kiddo.
Absolutely. What if I want my kid to get more speech sessions, but the therapist says she is making progress?
So I understand that people want more related service sessions. So this is a generality. But usually a child with a speech impairment is going to receive 2 sessions a week in elementary school, usually 1 a week, maybe 1 every other week in junior high, and even less than that in high school. Again, I don't know your numbers or your situation or the acuity of your child's speech impairment, but we deliver that related service of speech, and then we work on GMF, generalization, maintenance, and fluency. And so we need to really look at that time that's happening across settings, and is there acquisition of the skill? I don't find that more speech sessions produce a higher speech outcome.
Oh, we've got lots of comments here that people are in the pool.
No,
We're in the pool.
I am out. I'm sitting by the pool holding all of your cell phones. I am not getting in the pool.
And we appreciate that.
Yes, in the shade. In the shade.
Exactly. Oklahoma student graduated high school, and now his IEP has turned into a 504. Do you have any suggestions?
So it's not that your IEP turns into a 504. There aren't IEPs in college, right? So 504 is a 1973 Rehabilitation Act, which is a discrimination, an anti-discrimination act based upon disability. So that's applicable for you. It's a benefit of being an American. So it applies to schools, and it applies to higher education. It applies to employers. And so IEPs conclude in public school and high school. So you could receive 504 services for accommodations if needed in college.
Excellent. We have a student asking about their IEP. She says, I have an IEP, and we've tried to get the school to get my ADHD and ADD testing, but the school won't do it. How can I get assistance?
Well, if they're going to not do something, they're required to provide that not doing in writing. It's called a prior written notice. So what I would email the school and say, based upon my understanding of what I heard from you, you are indicating that you are denying me testing for whatever they said. Please provide that written denial in a prior written notice within 48 hours.
Absolutely. We love a good PWN.
We love a PWN when we get them.
True.
Yes.
And they're complete, right?
I mean, we just said we ain't gonna. I feel like we ain't gonna misses a couple of the 7 federal requirements.
I think it's good. They're
Yeah.
good. All right, then Rotro said, this is so true. I was a SPED teacher and a parent to a child with learning disabilities. It's very difficult.
Yes. Yes. And thanks you guys for all the gifts.
Yes. Okay, so somebody's asking, what do you mean by measurements? Like a tape ruler?
Yeah, so measurements. So when we look at formal testing, we talk about standardized scores, scaled scores, T-scores, Z-scores, and those measurements fall in a bell curve. They range from 70, which is the 0 percentile, to 130, which is the 100th percentile. And so when a state is indicating whether or not there's a specific learning disability based on 21.5 points, I call that a measurement.
Our teacher can't help my child due to many kids in the class. How do I ask for more assistance for the teacher and for my student? So
I would first ask for my child to be put in a setting where he can be successful. Hopefully, that would then prompt the school to get the appropriate amount of hands and support in the class. But if there are not enough adults to implement the IEP based upon the conformity that we agreed upon, then I'm going to be asking for out-of-district placement at the expense of the district.
Okay, can you tell us again how we ask for dyslexia testing?
We don't. So this is how you ask. You ask for a formal cognitive evaluation in all 7 Gs. Gs are brain skills. In that testing, it will rule in or rule out dyslexia, and ask for all 5 achievement areas: reading, writing, math, oral expression, and listening comprehension.
Would you recommend private testing for dyslexia or learning disabilities, or would you wait for the school to do it?
I would not recommend that you spend a dime on outside testing. While we have lots of great outside testing, the district, county, or city has an onus, duty, and responsibility to test your child who has a suspected disability. It's a federal law. It's a federal funded law.
All right, question, but I'd say, does it have to be special education and resource? My son does well academically, but not functionally. Hey, it's me. Can you maybe expand on that?
Expand on resource? So yeah, so there's different settings in education, right? There's general education with accommodations, general education with a support person, general education with a co-teacher. There's resource, which is outside of the general education classroom. It's a smaller group at a slower pace. Still spiraled from the state standard, but a modified product. And then there's an alternate setting called life skills, where we're working on functional academics, functional skills, post-secondary success for living independently, gainful employment, and further education. There are self-contained units, adaptive behavior, autism units, disciplinary units. So it just depends on the needs of your child.
What is an FBA?
A functional behavior assessment. It's an evaluation that we do on the student with a disability to try to determine what is the real reason behind the action of the child's behavior. What can we do to mitigate it? What do we know that does work, works sometimes, works all the time, never works? What is something that is an antecedent, will set him off or trigger this behavior? And then we work on mitigating that and write IEP goals around the targeted behaviors.
All right, this is a good follow-up question for that. Can a student with ADHD get sent to an alternative school if the behavior is not connected to their disability?
Yeah. I mean, you can get sent to an alternative school if the behavior is connected to your disability, but the frequency and rate of it is not part of a disability, right? So when we look at, discipline rated to your disability, when it's a connection, it's usually because there's an impulsivity, something happens in a moment, but we often have children that have impulsive behaviors, low executive functioning, but they do stuff at such a high rate, it can no longer be a disability. A little bit of it is planned, it's been addressed, and it still continues. So children with disabilities, with accommodations and modifications, are still required to understand and comply with the student code of conduct based upon the modifications based on a behavior intervention plan.
Excellent. All right. Do you want to tell everybody what is going on at 8 p.m. Central?
8 p.m. Central, we have the Amazing Academy. We want you guys to join us there. We're in a series right now, Related and Instructional Services under IDEA. You'd be surprised what they are. And so you can join us at specialeducationacademy.com. You go to the training section. You fill out the part that has your information, your credit card information, populate that, and then there'll be a box that says coupon code. In there, you put TikTok Live in all capital letters, TikTok Live. And then you can join us. You get 15 days for free. You can leave at any time. If after 15 days you continue to stay, then you'd be billed $47 a month. You can come and go as you like. There's no contract or commitment, but it's a great community of educators, administrators, parents, and our job is to teach you the letter of the law, the application of the law, and the spirit of the law.
All right, FWISD. I can think of a couple.
I can think of a couple too.
I almost read it a little bit off, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been
Yeah.
TikTok appropriate. How to wait list.
Forgive us, Father. Yeah. But it's very still not inappropriate, just not appropriate.
Correct.
Yeah.
All of that. Okay. So FWISD had a wait list for ECSC this past year. Is that legal?
No, there's not a wait list. We're not trying to get into Spagos. No, we're not going to the Taylor Swift Eras tour. There's no wait list. You're human, and you're a child with a disability in America. There's no wait list. What?
Right.
It has to be the district we were thinking of. I'm just, what the Hello Kitty? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, sir.
I know, it's kind of like the Golden Arches, serving number 12, serving number 12.
Yeah, if you guys can just wait in the drive-thru, just pull up over there. And when we get to you, we'll get to you. Was there a waiting list to be on the varsity football team? I mean, it's just a question. Just a question. I'm just wondering.
All right, so what about missed services that are on the IEP and the school district claims it was due to staff shortages?
Okay. It doesn't matter what it was due to. It could have been due to a hurricane, could have been done due to a fire, it could have been done due to flooding, it could have been due to school closure. You have to implement the IEP in the conformity of the IEP. What does that mean? What we agreed upon. The reason that you can't implement it has no bearing on your legal requirement. And so for those families that we serve, we ask those schools to provide us an offer of compensatory time. And it's amazing. That always happens.
Exactly. All right. We have a bunch of people asking again about dyslexia and how you would go about requesting an evaluation.
Yeah, I just don't ever ask for a dyslexia evaluation. Why? Because that's all you will get. And you've literally given them the option of just testing for dyslexia. I wish everything in the world was dyslexia. It's not. We have kids that have the other 3 reading disabilities, basic reading, reading fluency, and reading comprehension, and don't have dyslexia. So I think dyslexia is great, but everybody doesn't have dyslexia. So the reason we ask for full effective evaluations is because a testing does one of 2 things. It identifies or eliminates. If you solely test for one of the 9 SLDs, I promise you, you've missed something. So we always ask for full cognitive testing. It will cover dyslexia and all the other 8 SLDs. And then we'll know exactly what the child's unique circumstances are.
Absolutely. As somebody 15 years ago that was a victim of the dyslexia screener.
The screen. And where do screens go? On doors and windows.
Windows.
Yeah.
And I think there's a joke about battleships too.
Yes, please.
How can I monitor the actual conformity of the IEP? I really have no idea if it's being followed.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of our job as parents, right, to partner with the campus. And so I would just say, at the beginning of the school year, I may not have met this staff last year. I just want to let you know that at the end of every grading period, I will be picking up my child's raw data collection sheets, RDCS. I know it makes people crazy. We'll be picking up the raw data collection sheets at the end of every grading period, depending on when your child is in school. That's either every 9 weeks or every 6 weeks. That way I can match the child's progress. I know you guys have a lot of kiddos to serve, but I want to make sure that the IEP that we agreed upon is serving my child. And so the more eyes that we have on it, the better. Let me know if you need copy paper or if I can just pick that up in a zip drive. And then when you get those raw data collection sheets, match them up to the percentages that we agreed upon, right? If we said in 36 instructional weeks, he will, do this with 80% accuracy. Well, that means at the first grading period of 9 weeks, he should be at 20%. If he's at 6 or if he's at 35, you need to call an IEP meeting because the rate of that IEP goal is not appropriate.
What is given to families when they receive compensatory services?
Back talk. No, I'm just kidding. I was thinking, it's Christina, it's not me. So it depends on what you negotiated, right? I don't think I've ever had a school offer me a compensatory package where I went, that was perfect. I see that's a good starting place. But compensatory time for me when I'm representing a client is not minute for minute. If you miss 6 months of delivering him 4 hours of special education every day, I'm not going to make a child do the time because adults couldn't do their job. So I'm looking at something that will mitigate what happened, right? To return the student back to where they would have been had the violation not occurred. Probably not going to do that, but I'm going to try to get as close as possible without ruining his Christmas break and his spring break and his winter break and summer break, and giving him targeted intervention by somebody that was probably not involved all along, that will help him make gains. So for instance, if a child is in elementary school and he didn't get his reading minutes, then I would see if there was an amazing reading teacher from the junior high that did compensatory time in the summer, maybe an hour on Saturdays, maybe 2 hours on Saturdays. I have had that in lots of school districts, and then we just work out the compensatory time till it's completed. So it might be 12 months, 24 months, 36 months.
Is there a timeline when you request an IEE?
I wish there was. So there's a timeline that they have to respond. It's called reasonable, which I think we can agree that who knows what that is. So I would expect there's a timeline when you request testing. So if I'm requesting an IEE that's testing, I would assume it falls under that same statute. So that is 15 15 calendar days. So if I request from, Yahoo Independent School District, we disagree with this occupational therapy evaluation, we disagree with its data, its summary conclusion, and we are requesting an outside evaluation for an OT at the expense of the district, I would assume, because I'm an assumer, that within 15 days I'll have a response that yes, they will be granting that, no, they will not be granting that, and they will be taking us to a due process hearing.
Absolutely. All right, and then L says, not the raw data collection sheets again.
Yes, RDCS.
All right, what else can I do for my autistic child in general education? He's getting sent to another class and it just isn't working.
Yes, you need to call an IEP meeting, right? It's not working. And moving the kid around to stop the owie or the uncomfortable is not intervention, right? Is there a way that we could intervene that he could be successful in class? Is the teacher able to handle this child with this disability? Would she be able to handle this child with this disability with some support, with some training, with another set of hands? Talk through all those pieces so that we know where we need to make adjustments.
All right, I requested for my daughter to be evaluated and was told the teacher has to send a request first.
Wow, when did they add that? That must be a new copy of the federal law. No. We evaluate children that have suspected disabilities. So when a parent requests testing, you either grant the testing or you deny it, provided either way with a robust prior written notice.
All right. What is a language disorder or a language impairment?
So that is when the child's ability to understand, produce, use language to communicate and connect is impaired in one of 9 areas.
Okay. What would a teacher give to families if they take data digitally and not by pencil and paper?
Even better. Give me a copy of your digital thingy deal.
I love my good spreadsheet. I get Excel spreadsheets when I ask for them for those.
I love a good cocktail napkin. So Christina's much younger. She knows how to use that Excel spreadsheet. Not so much.
You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, there's taping and it's sideways and yeah.
Exactly.
I just want you to have actually taken data. That's what I want.
Wouldn't it be just the same to look at the quarterly progress reports for the information, or is that different from asking for raw data collection? Yeah,
so the raw data collection sheets are what you use day in and day out to take data throughout the week. The software platform that we load that information up in is a summary of it, right? So just like when you get kids' state tests back, it'll say you got a 1463 or whatever. You can ask for a more extensive copy of that state testing that gives you more information. I'm just asking for more information. I don't find that progress reports are often filled out very good. Even on the digital one, it will say stuff like, he's making progress. Ooh, that wasn't helpful. Or he's making progress, he's making progress, he's making progress. He didn't make it. So I'm missing some components. And so there's nothing more important for me than when I represent a family that I'm fully prepared at that meeting, so that we're not doing the runaround and you go pick this up off the copier and Bob, can you get this? And Jerry, can you get that? That when we get to that meeting, we all have the information in front of us and it's not personal. It was either working or wasn't working, right? And so the more that we're all fully informed about what was going on and what we tried and executed and it didn't make the mark, then we can make adjustments. It's not personal, it's business. It's the business of educating a child with a disability.
Amen. All right, I always love it when questions start out with, is there anything wrong when?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes. If you have to start it that way,
Yeah.
most likely.
I'm just wondering.
All right, is there anything wrong when a case manager goes on maternity leave and the paras are implementing the IEP?
I'm sorry, what? Yeah. So, first of all, I don't know how a case manager implements IEPs. The people that are on the ground, in the room, day in and day out, working with the child are implementing the IEP. The case manager usually gathers the information, but a para in isolation could not implement an IEP ever. There's certainly a component of the staff that is a support person, but only under the direction and watchful eye of a special educator.
Is there if you request an IEP amendment meeting, is there a timeline the school has to follow? They're telling me it'll be over a month before they can schedule.
No, that's going to be unacceptable. We'll need some different staff from district to come in and staff that meeting. So it has to be reasonable. So a month is not reasonable.
Okay. Do you come and sit in the IEP or 504 meetings as an advocate?
It feels like it, doesn't it, Christina? I sit right here. I've been sitting right here since March 13th, 2020. And which is great because we, myself and my partners get to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 IEP meetings from coast to coast. Zoom. So no, I don't go in person. We don't even do hearings in person anymore. Due process hearings are all done by Zoom, federal complaints, state complaints. So I wouldn't have an occasion to go in person. If I was having a hearing and the parents wanted me to come, I would do that. We would still kind of have to be apart because we have to all be on our own monitor. But I've done that for due process hearings. It's not an efficient use of our time. I live in a little tiny city of 7.5 million people. So I was spending 3 or 4 hours a day just driving, having a Mountain Dew and a can of Pringles for lunch, which I feel like is healthy. So this is a much better model.
All right. Teaching the Littles wanted to know if there was a Canadian version of you.
You mean a calm Canadian? I wish there was a Canadian Karen. There's not a Canadian version of me. I just have, mouthy Texan. But we have clients all over. My partners do. We have clients that move because they're in they're in oil and gas, or, people travel. We have people in London. We have people in Japan. We have people in Canada. We have people in Papua New Guinea. So people move. Their jobs move them. So America is the only place that has special ed that's federally funded. So there's a version of special education all over.
All right. Our teacher union says accommodation trackers are a change in working conditions.
What? Working conditions? Okay. All right. I'm not sure what that means, but all we do in education is teach and measure. So why we wouldn't teach and measure children in a 504 or special education, I don't know in the job interview who told you that. But it's not a change in a work environment. If it's something that you're not able to do, you should let your leadership know and be in a role that doesn't include kids with disabilities.
All right, what is happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow, it's Wednesday, June 26th at 6 p.m. Central. We have a webinar with the amazing Dr. Mitchell L. Yell, and just go to specialeducationacademy.com and register. The webinar is free, but you have to register. We haven't talked to Dr. Yell in 2 months. It seems so long, doesn't it, Christina? It feels like my brain has just turned back into regular. When we're around him, we feel like taller and smarter, and I feel like we should have like little shields. Here we are, Special Education Academy. And he's so generous with his time. He's a hearing officer in South Carolina, an author. He works side by side with the Department of Justice, IDEA, Americans with Disabilities. So he's a pleasure to have to come and train all of us. And he's going to be training on least restrictive environment. Who knows what that is? And that little thing called placement. So you don't want to miss this. It's our biggest rub that we have with schools and parents.
Absolutely. All right. Can a sub with no teaching certificate teach ESY if a special education teacher has written the lesson?
ESY is only special educators. Period. So there's that. It's like, can I be your surgeon if somebody left me a note? That'd be fine, right, Christina? So you start right here, you just cut here, and yeah, it's close enough.
That's what we would have done with Nicholas and his leg surgeries.
Just eyeball it. We're gonna just you left me a note. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. The teacher of the visually impaired wants to do virtual lessons.
Yeah, so we don't accept your offer of special education or related services virtually. That's what you would say. I don't accept your offer of special education and related services virtually. Period. That would be the end of that. There's no statute that allows that. There's no federal statute that allows that. If you agree to those shenanigans, you got to stop that.
All right, I have a student with physical and visual impairments. The school gave them a one-to-one para, but only for 9 weeks. Said they need to phase out the para for independence.
Then why'd you give them a para? That doesn't make any sense. We deliver special education related services because the student needs it. So you're telling me after 45 school days there was no need? I would need to see the data that supports that. I would probably say something else, but we'll save it. I feel like I would have... This is why I don't go in person, so I do not pull out my pool noodle. Ba-bam! Yeah.
And bonk.
Bonk them on the head. What are we doing, people?
But I don't know.
Yeah, I won't tell you where, but I was in Nevada. And I had a child who's blind and visually impaired, and the lady said, well, he needs to get his behavior together. Good news, I was only advocating via phone, so I was just sort of like slamming my dashboard. I wasn't driving, but I was like, oh, what did you say? Yeah, his behavior is not very good. Yeah, he's blind, so he's going to have different behaviors. Well, until that gets in order, we can't work on his vision. Whoo! What happens in Nevada stays in Nevada.
Yes. All right. Student with an AAC device, teacher says that they are modeling on the banner that she printed with 70 words on it.
Great. So I would love to come in for a teacher conference, and we can talk about what that, you can demonstrate that for me. So we are on the same page, because whatever you're modeling should be his modality. I just want to confirm that that's actually what's happening. It might be something from, Penn and Teller. I don't know. America's Got Talent. What do I know? But probably not.
What if a superintendent doesn't respond to a due process request?
Well, it's not a request. So a due process is not an option, right? Coloring my hair is an option. Not really. So the due process request goes from the state due process docket person to the superintendent and then to the parents. So when I file a due process, it will go to the superintendent of Dallas ISD, and then to myself if I'm representing the client, or to the attorney who's representing the client if I'm sit with them as well. So it's not an option. So it's called the initial order, and it goes out to both parties. So I don't need the superintendent to respond. It's not an option. It's not an invitation. it's a requirement.
Absolutely. If a child is diagnosed with abandonment outside of school, maybe not diagnosed,
Suffers from.
Yeah. Does the school district need to provide ABA services?
So we look at the characteristics of what's happened to a child, what's their disability, what's their diagnosis, what are their experiences, right? That collective. If there's a service that we could provide him that would be a benefit, we certainly do that. I don't know what that service would be, but it's certainly our job when we do that testing in the psychological, behavioral, emotional space that we look to see if we can mitigate that.
If your child needs their state or district assessments in paper format instead of computer because it's medically necessary, how do I go about making that change?
So the school district has to ask for the exemption from their state.
Okay. I was told that all of my self-contained kids would not be attending the class parties next year because it is too stressful for the others. Is that appropriate?
It just depends, right? You might have had a classroom full of kids this year that it was too stressful, and you might have those same kids next year and they've matured, they have less sensory needs, they have more successful days when they're not in their setting. So we certainly don't predetermine that. I would tell them that my crystal ball is in the shop, not expected to be repaired. So we'll look at each situation and talk about the appropriateness and integrate them with their non-disabled peers as much as possible.
I was told I needed to accompany my student on field trips this upcoming year if they wanted to attend.
Great. If you could provide me that statute by close of business tomorrow, that'd be fantastic. Muffin. You always want to add muffin on the end, right? What? No. Mm-mm.
It goes down better that way.
Yeah.
It does. All right. What happens when a parent requests mediation?
So that is a request. Mediation is voluntary by both parties. So if the district asks for mediation, it goes to the other party, and the party it will go to the person that handles the mediation docket for the state, and that person will reach out. Kathleen Cameron in Texas, she's amazing. She'll say, Karen, ABC School District wants to mediate with you. Are you open to that? And we'll say, of course, we are always open to any resolution to serve this kiddo. And then a mediator from the state will be assigned to your case. And then the school and the parent, and whoever is representing them, will work directly with that mediator's law firm to get a time on the books that works for all parties. And then we set up mediation, which is usually 4 to 8 hours of one day. We look at the areas of concern, and we see if we can get those settled.
Excellent. And then, can you tell me again what the 7 G's are?
Seriously, Christina?
Yes.
Let's see if I can walk through them. Okay, so there's crystallized intelligence, fluid reasoning, visual processing, short-term memory, long-term memory, auditory processing, visual spatial. Did I do that? I think I did it.
You did.
Ta-da! I'm gonna need like a little, heads up on that one. Here's what you're usually missing when you do diagnostic testing. They usually do 5 Gs, so you're missing auditory processing, right? That neurological piece where it's hard for children to discriminate sounds. And then the long-term memory, which is broken up really into 2 Gs, long-term storage and long-term retrieval. All of those are very important to know about a kiddo that you're serving.
Absolutely. Okay. Can you tell us about the academy again? It's coming close.
The academy, it's like the little golden statue. Oh, the other academy, not like an Oscar. So Special Education Academy, we have it every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central. We log on. I train on a component of the federal law. It's in series. And then we open it up for questions. That's where you can get all of your questions answered, whatever they are. And then we have hundreds and hundreds of hours of past academies that are archived and they're on the platform. So once you're in, you have access to all of those. And don't binge watch Netflix or Hulu. Binge watch Special Education Academy.
All right, the eternal question: why do schools spend so much more money on lawyers than providing services? I can't fathom this.
We agree. Because here's what I think it is. If they do it for your kid, they got to do it for every kid. I am nobody important. I am nobody special. I am a non-attorney advocate, and I've had attorneys spend over $200,000 on a case against a client of mine and a client. No attorneys involved. I don't know, for $100,000, $200,000, you could probably teach the whole district really good reading. You could probably teach some really good math. You could probably get some really good behavior training in there. You could probably hire some employees. But we find that districts, not all districts, but some districts are happy to lawyer up and argue to the nth degree with parents over the most basic things. And I mean, the most basic things.
And maybe those high attorney fees are why in some districts they're actually charging teachers for a Jeans Pass. There's some just $5 for a Jeans Pass.
$5. Yeah.
Where's that going?
I would like to do a FOIA request on the Jeans Pass money. Yeah. I bet you won't get those records either.
I'm pretty sure that somebody would be writing a letter to the AG's office.
Yes.
Saying,
Please, Ken Paxton, stop it.
Say it ain't so.
Yes.
All right. What states have you worked in? I love learning how to advocate with effectiveness.
I can't think of a state that I haven't worked in. I don't think I've had a client in Iowa, but it could have been Idaho. I can't think of another state. I can't think of another state that I haven't had a client in. I think I maybe have never had a client in New Mexico. I've had a client that came from New Mexico, but over these last 4 years, we are advocating all over this Disney World, Disneyland, where they filmed the vampire series, to Miami, to Long Island. Yeah, so we love people everywhere. And everywhere, people need advocates. If you would like to be an advocate, we would love to train you. There's 7.5 million children in America with an IEP. Forget the 504, forget the untested. Those families need representation and support. Let us train you to do that.
Absolutely. All right. My district sent me a 6-page letter detailing how I'm allowed to talk with staff because I asked questions about special education.
Is this like you're at PetSmart and you're getting puppy training? I don't, that feels very retaliatory, and I would file with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. You cannot do anything to impede the parent's ability to communicate with people that provide their child an educational product. 6 pages. Me and Christina really want to see a copy of that. I mean, take your time. We'd like to see a copy of it. I'd be happy to read it on the interweb. You know, redacting some of it. Dear Ding Dong. Not you, them.
No.
6 pages.
I know.
That's impressive. You must be amazing. 6 pages.
$250, $350 an hour.
Did they tell you where you could park your car during football games?
Right?
Oh my goodness.
I like that.
Yeah.
As the world turns.
Yes, as the press conference turns.
Exactly. I'm ready for that. Okay, what do you do if the TEA... Oh, hello, Texas.
Hello, Texas.
What do you do if the TEA does not do a fair and thorough investigation?
So, I mean, you have to think about what is it that you think wasn't fair and thorough. A lot of that, and I'm not saying that this is what happened in your case, is really poor complaint filing. So I think what's important to remember is, although you're probably not an attorney, I'm not an attorney, you need to file a complaint as if you were, because the complaint is going to an attorney. And so on a state complaint, while you get to complain, the last one to respond is who? The district. right? And I don't find districts to go, Christina was right. We did all those things. I don't find that to be my experience. So we teach people and we train people on how to file appropriately, legally, getting rid of all the emotion and the fluff and your feelings about it, and solely file based upon your procedural rights and safeguards that were violated. Were they violations of ADA? Were they violations of 504? Were they violations of IDEA? And depending on what they were, you might have done better to do an OCR complaint. You might have done better to do mediation. But you're not out of options. You could still file for mediation depending on exactly what happened. I would file OCR, but I don't go away until it's bettered for the student.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm a 504 coordinator. Parent requested special education testing today. The new special education teacher starts in August. Is that too late?
Is that too late? No, I mean, you're only required to do testing. They just made me put three puzzle pieces together to see if it's me. I did it. It's so exciting. So we certainly receive your request for special education and related service testing. That is only required to be completed during the instructional year. And so I certainly would, if you could, go ahead and get notice and consent provided and to the parent. Also, I would never want to test a child the first few weeks of school, ever, my client or anybody else's. So I would want the testing to start about 3 weeks after school starts, and then use that as the timeline.
All right, and then how does somebody sign up for training or become a advocate?
Yeah, so if you have questions about that, you can always email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. We have digital training products on specialeducationacademy.com. We have the 2-day training on demand on specialeducationacademy.com. But we would love to support you in any way that you're supporting kids or raising kids with disabilities.
All right, I'm going to need to see some emojis. I need to see some fun emojis. Make me, we're getting close to 4th of July, so fireworks.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bomb.
Yeah, I always do instead of trying to do the laughing emoji, I end up sending the crying emoji. So I'm like, I have not been to, we need like a 504 emoji class. How to send the proper emoji when the school sends a bad PWN. That could be a class.
That would be the crying emoji.
Yes. Yeah. Or the emoji that's all red and smoke's coming out. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, those are good. These are good emojis. Yes. Patriotic. I like it. Yeah.
I like it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, look. I just got glasses. I like that.
And you needed a new pair.
I'm running so low.
Let me disagree.
Yeah. He said something last night about if I was running low on blazers. I was like, ooh, don't talk like that. That's, This is brand new. I wore this tonight just for y'all. Bloomingdale's. We don't have a Bloomingdale's here, but they sell them for $70 in the summer. You should get them.
Yes. All right. When filing an intra-district transfer for your child, how long does it take to get a response?
So that's not a special ed issue. If that's something you're initiating on your own, it goes through the district level at whatever their processes are. It might be a few weeks. It might be a few months.
All right. How do we hire you to be our advocate? I've looked in your link tree and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com and we'll get you the information.
All right. And then how much data or how many weeks of data is needed to send a student to a different placement?
It's not a measurement. It's looking at, we can't provide the student what they need here. And schools have limitations, right? They're not hospitals, they're not police stations. They're public schools. And sometimes a school has provided all that they can for a child with a disability. And so we look at if what we're doing is mitigating the acuity of its disability. Is there progress? Is there meaningful progress? Is there some progress? And if there's not, we just have to sit down and have that very sober conversation about what would be the next appropriate place to implement his IEP.
Oh, such a good question. What should a PWN look like? That's going to have to be like a whole separate video series.
That's actually our next series in Special Education Academy, thanks to Miss, it's actually right here. on a very big teal Post-it note. You can thank Christina for that. PWN is the next series. We're almost done with related services. I think we have this week and one more week. But then after that, we're starting the PWN. You need to know, because you can live and die on a good PWN. And so I don't find that schools have trained their staff very well on a PWN, even though usually you could just fill out the page on the software. But a prior written notice must have 7 components under federal law, no matter what state you live in. So definitely want to be there for that series in Special Education Academy.
Absolutely. How can I find out the result of a state investigation the principal won't tell me?
Well, if you're the complainant and you're the parent, you get a copy of it. When myself or Christina or one of our other partners files a complaint on behalf of a client, we need to make sure that when we file that complaint, we send in our complaint, and then we additionally at the same time send in a release from our client that says Christina is filing on behalf of my son, Billy Smith, and they've signed off on that. So then the state education agency will release those results to us.
Oh, is it legal for the student to do the data collection?
Oh my
Even
God.
though you requested the staff to do it?
Does the student receive federal funds for implementing special ed? I mean, did you cut a check for federal funds to the student? So in Louisiana, I think they've changed it now. It's actually in the software. Underneath the IEP goals, it would say person implementing the goal, special education teacher, general education teacher, student, parent. I'm like, the parent isn't there.
Janitor, lawnskeeper.
Football
All right,
coach.
Karen, got 2 more questions for you, and
Okay.
then you've got to go get ready for Academy.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of other staff, is it appropriate for the librarian to be working on reading goals for my child with dyslexia?
Is the librarian teaching your child reading content in a reading class with reading curriculum? Say it with me.
Probably
Not.
I'd like to see it if it was.
I was in an IEP meeting the other day that the general ed teacher was the librarian. I won't tell you what I said. I said something like, let's not do this again, ever. Okay. There's no curriculum in the state of Texas for library or PE or lunch or recess. I mean, I think PE there is. Recess, lunch, assemblies. Ugh.
Assemblies. All the assemblies.
He likes the library, but they told me he likes the library lady. Fantastic. Maybe he can be her assistant as an adult.
Exactly. All right, and then can a general education teacher that is not certified be an implementer on an IEP goal?
They're not certified to be a general ed teacher?
Correct.
Well, they wouldn't be the general ed teacher. Yeah. So if you're not the general ed teacher, you're not allowed to teach that curriculum in that state.
Or if you're not certified. Yeah.
If you're not a certified teacher, you're not a teacher. I would say there's no such thing as a non-certified teacher, that you're a staff member. Yeah. You're an employee. And I love a good employee, but you're not a teacher. I'm not a teacher. A non-certified individual is not a teacher. Tiny details.
Tiny difference.
Tiny.
Pretty tiny.
Now, if they're on an emergency certification for general ed, there are some exceptions and exemptions for that in states, but then the school would be able to provide you that in writing as well. They would be able to provide you the plan they're in, the course they're in. So make sure you get the whole thing. I heard the other day that we had a substitute teacher that used to be a CPA teaching science, and by golly, we should be happy to have her. I don't even know who by golly is. I don't know if that's like my neighbor or they're running. Who's running for office? By golly. Yeah. We should be happy to have her. I didn't know CPAs taught science, but what do I know? I was talking in school. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody who needs to reach out to you, we can do advocate at specialeducationacademy.com.
Yeah. If you guys need an advocate, if you need one of our partners, if you need records review, if you need somebody to file for you, state, mediation, federal, we're happy to do that. Remember, when you get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.